Welcome, learner, to the deep dive. Today, our mission is really about finding those aha moments, those insights you get when experts tackle systems and people without any kind of instruction manual.
That's right. We've got some fascinating source material here. It basically lays out a blueprint for applied offensive security.
And it reveals these two, well, fundamentally opposite paths to success.
Yeah, really different approaches.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. We're going to compare the, let's say, high-wire act of technical precision needed to reverse engineer complex machines.
Like cars.
Exactly. And contrast that with the, frankly, low-cost, high-impact world of exploiting basic human nature.
It really is a study in extremes. You've got mathematical certainty on one side.
And psychological assumption on the other.
Precisely. So we're diving deep into two compelling fields today. First, how security researchers actually tackle completely undocumented industrial control systems. We'll use modern cars as our main example. It's fascinating stuff.
Figuring things out with zero documentation sounds tough.
It is. And then second, we'll explore the economics of social engineering. How physical credentials get forged, how physical security gets bypassed, often with surprisingly simple methods.
Right. So the big question hanging over all this.
Yeah, for anyone responsible for defenses, it really raises an essential question.
Yeah.
Is it ultimately easier, maybe cheaper, maybe faster, to hack the code?
Yeah.
Or to hack the clipboard?
Okay, let's start with the code then. Specifically, that scenario where there's just no official documentation telling you what anything means.
Right.
We're talking about reverse engineering the undocumented machine, the modern car. The sources really highlight this central challenge. The manufacturer provides, well, nothing, no documentation.
Yep, nada.
So you're seeing this stream of binary data, just ones and zeros, flying past on the car's internal network. And you somehow have to figure out which specific series of bits means speed, which means RPM, what controls the brakes. It seems almost impossible.
Well, what's interesting is the starting point they often have. Modern vehicles, especially ones built since, say, 2008 or so, they use standardized physical infrastructure.
Like the CAN bus.
Exactly, the controller area network bus. And physical access is usually pretty straightforward. You can just plug in via the data link connector, that OBD2 port under the dashboard.
Okay, so getting on the network isn't the barrier.
Not usually, no. But once you're listening on that bus, you're just looking at this huge proprietary mess, really. Most of the signals are unlabeled, completely opaque. That's the core problem researchers have to solve using pure data analysis.
So how do you actually how do you turn this raw, unknown data into something meaningful, especially when it's constantly flowing?
Well, the sources detail a really clever toolkit specifically for this kind of discovery.
Okay.
And the first critical piece involves identifying change in that constant stream. You need a way to filter out the noise. Like, if the car's driving at a steady 60 miles per hour, the data payload representing that speed isn't changing right. It's just repeating the same value.
Ah, okay. So you only care when things flip.
Precisely. And researchers often use the XOR function for this. It's very efficient.
XOR. Okay, explain the genius of using XOR here. It sounds technical.
It is, but the concept is straightforward. Think of XOR exclusive or like, shining a kind of digital blacklight on the data stream.
Okay.
You take the current row of data, the current message, and you compare it against the one that came immediately before it using XOR.
Right.
If the values in a specific spot are identical, say 1 and 1 or 0 and 0, the XOR output is 0, no change.
But if a bit flips from 1 to 0 or 0 to 1?
There you go. The XOR function lights it up, outputs a 1, so it very efficiently logs only the changes and how often they happen.
Ah, I see. So you can easily spot a signal that's constantly changing, like maybe the steering wheel angle?
Yeah, versus something that changes only once, like the parking brake light turning on. It helps separate the signal from the static.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so XOR helps find the active signals, but you still might have hundreds, maybe thousands of these unknown changing signals. Now what? How do you group them?
Right. Now you need to group signals that seem to be behaving similarly. But crucially, you often don't know how many groups or signals there actually are.
You can't just guess, okay, I'm looking for 50 signals.
Exactly. And this is where a mathematical tool called hierarchical clustering comes in. It's really powerful for this kind of unsupervised discovery.
Hierarchical clustering. Okay, how does that work in simple terms?
And imagine you just dumped all your clean laundry on the floor. You don't know beforehand if you have 5 pairs of socks or 20 pairs.
Right. You just know the blue ones probably go together, the stripy ones maybe.
Precisely. The algorithm acts like a super patient automated sock sorter. It uses a consistent mathematical distance metric to compare every single signal's behavior to every other signal's behavior.
Without needing to know what they mean yet.
Correct. It doesn't need any labels. It just starts merging the most similar items, the signals changing in the most similar ways, together into small groups. Then it merges those small groups into slightly larger ones and so on, building up this hierarchy.
Like a family tree of signals.
Kind of, yeah. Often visualized as something called a dendrogram, which looks like a tree. And the length of the branches shows how similar things are.
So this is how researchers might figure out that, say, 4 different signals that looked random before are actually all reporting data about wheel rotation speed.
Exactly that. They cluster together because their patterns of change are mathematically similar, even if the raw values are slightly different.
Okay, that clustering technique sounds, well, pretty amazing for dealing with unknowns. But even if I have 4 signals perfectly grouped together, I still don't know if they're reporting wheel speed or maybe windshield wiper settings or, I don't know, anti-lock brake status.
Good point. You've gone from raw data to grouped data, but not yet to labeled function.
Right. How do you make that final leap?
You move to labeling by establishing causal relationships. This usually involves some manual interaction with the system.
Meaning you actually do something to the car.
Yep. You turn the steering wheel, you press the brake pedal, you rev the engine, and you carefully watch those clustered groups of signals.
Ah, looking for a reaction.
Exactly. If a known input, like you pressing the brake pedal, that happened, causes a specific group of unknown signals to consistently and immediately change in a predictable way.
Then you can infer what they are.
You've established a strong causal link. That correlation is often powerful enough to confidently label that unknown signal group as, say, the brake pressure sensor or the wheel speed sensors.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like poking the system and seeing what wiggles.
That's a good way to put it. But the sources really stress how difficult the final stage is, achieving 100% accuracy.
Not 90%, not even 99%.
They call 90 or 99% accuracy kind of rough. And for good reason. These are binary machine systems. They're literal.
What happens if you're off by just 1 bit?
Well, if you misinterpret even a single bit in a crucial control signal, maybe the bit that distinguishes accelerates slightly from brake hard, you could send completely the wrong command.
Yeah. Oh, right. That could be bad.
Extremely bad. So this kind of total unsupervised reverse engineering, it demands absolute mathematical precision in the end. No room for error.
Wow. Okay, so we need mathematical certainty, complex analysis like XOR, and clustering, rigorous testing, and ultimately 100% precision just to reliably understand and maybe control one part of the machine.
That's the gist of it, yeah. It's a high bar.
Now, let's pivot completely. Let's talk about a totally different kind of system. One where the main defense isn't complex code, but maybe just a nervous human being.
Right. We're shifting from hacking the machine to exploiting the human firewall, as they sometimes call it.
And the contrast here is, well, it's pretty stark, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources we looked at reveal something fascinating and maybe a bit scary about the human assessment process. It's incredibly flawed, especially under pressure or time constraints. When, say, a security guard or a receptionist is confronted with an unfamiliar document or maybe a slightly off-looking ID badge.
How long do they actually spend looking at it?
The research suggests they spend maybe 3 seconds, often less, deciding if that item or the person holding it is genuine or fake.
3 seconds. That's nothing.
Exactly. And that tiny, razor-thin window of trust, that's the prime target for social engineering attacks.
And the sources actually formalize this. They break down the attack surface into, 5 core psychological principles that get exploited again and again.
That's right. They are consistently identified as fear, compliance, helpfulness, apathy, and trust.
Okay, some of those make immediate sense. Fear you pose as an authority figure, right?
Yeah.
The fire marshal or an auditor or some regulator demanding access now.
Yep. Creates urgency and bypasses normal procedure. Compliance exploits our tendency to just follow directions if they sound official enough, even if they don't quite make sense.
Helpfulness. That seems obvious, too. Most people want to help someone who looks stressed or lost, right? You play on their basic decency.
Exactly. But what about apathy? That one sounds almost passive. How do you weaponize someone not caring?
Yeah, how does that compare to something active like fear?
Apathy is weaponized by making the interaction seem like a tedious, bureaucratic chore for the target. You don't ask for permission with enthusiasm, you present an administrative burden.
Give me an example.
Okay, instead of saying, "Can I please go service this server rack?" You might say, "I'm just here to quickly service this server rack that the night team apparently forgot about. I know it's annoying, just need you to sign this form so I can get out of your hair."
Ah, so you make it sound boring and routine.
Precisely. The guard's desire isn't necessarily to verify you thoroughly, but to quickly get rid of this tedious interruption and the associated paperwork. Their apathy towards the process gets exploited, leading them to grant access with minimal real scrutiny.
That's clever, in a sneaky way. Okay, let's get practical. How do these principles apply to low-cost techniques that exploit that 3-second trust window? Let's start with forging physical credentials, like ID badges.
Right. The absolute first step always is OSINT. Open source intelligence.
Googling.
Pretty much. You Google the target company, look for employee photos on LinkedIn, company websites, news articles. Chances are pretty high you'll find a picture where someone's ID badge is visible enough to see the basic layout, the logo, maybe even the color scheme.
Okay, so you find a template online. Then what? Do you need like a fancy graphics setup?
That's the key takeaway from the sources. You really don't. The emphasis is on low-cost execution. You don't need the latest, greatest graphics software.
What do they recommend?
They specifically mention using free, slightly older software suites. For example, Adobe Creative Suite version 2, which Adobe actually made available for free download legally some years ago because the activation servers were shut down.
Seriously. So free, powerful software is enough?
More than enough to create convincing-looking assets, yes. Logos, text layouts, adding a photo. It's totally doable.
Okay, and then printing it. The sources had a specific tip here that sounded brilliant and so simple.
Yeah, it's highly effective. You don't print it at home on your cheap inkjet where the quality might look off.
Where you print it?
You go to a hotel business office.
Why there?
They usually have high-quality laser printers, the kind that produce crisp, professional-looking output. And importantly, you can often pay cash, making it anonymous. That high print quality immediately helps sell the badge's legitimacy, especially from a few feet away.
Okay, but it's still just paper, right? How do you hide the fact that it might feel flimsy or the edges aren't perfect?
That's where the physical badge holder comes in. You use those standard plastic holders, especially the ones with a clip on the back.
How does that help?
The opaque plastic of the holder and the clip itself obscure the edges of the printed insert. That's where the cheapness would be most obvious, the cut edge of the paper.
So the guard doesn't see the edge?
Exactly. When they do that quick 3-second glance, their eyes focus on the familiar logo, the photo, the name in the middle. If the edges are hidden by a standard issue holder, the deception often works flawlessly. They might literally be looking at a piece of paper in front of an old credit card for stiffness, as one source put it.
Wow. Okay, that same principle of simplicity, maybe even making things look a bit average, applies to forging documents too, right? Like audit letters or work orders.
Yes, absolutely. Document creation should be basic, almost generic. Use standard templates readily available in things like Microsoft Office. Don't try to make it look too fancy or perfect.
And there was another tip about color.
Right. When in doubt, print your forged documents in black and white.
Why black and white?
Because it makes the document look like it came straight from a standard internal copier or a cheap office printer spitting out an internal memo. It adds this subtle layer of implied authenticity. A perfect, glossy color print might actually look more suspicious in some contexts.
Huh. Counterintuitive, but it makes sense. But okay, what if the guard is skeptical? What if they actually try to verify the document? This is where the validation checkpoint comes in, right? This seems critical.
It is absolutely essential for higher stakes attempts. It's the secondary layer of trust, the backup. Because a vigilant guard might actually call the phone number listed on your fake audit letter or work order.
So you need someone to answer that call.
Exactly. This requires setting up what the sources call a buddy, a friend, an accomplice, who is standing by, monitoring a dedicated phone number, usually a cheap burner phone or a temporary VoIP number.
And if the guard calls?
A buddy answers, playing the role convincingly. Yep, this is fake department. Oh, Agent Smith. Yes, he's definitely scheduled to be on site today. It's urgent. Please give him access. They immediately confirm your legitimacy.
That closes the loop. The guard feels they've done their due diligence.
Precisely. And think about the asymmetry here.
What do you mean?
We talked about needing maybe hundreds of hours of complex XOR analysis and clustering just to understand one subsystem in a car, demanding 100% technical accuracy.
Right.
Compare that to maybe, what, $10 for a burner phone
Yeah.
and coordinating with a buddy for an hour.
Yeah.
The efficiency difference in potentially bypassing major security controls is just staggering.
It really highlights where the friction or lack thereof lies in different kinds of systems.
Absolutely. And sometimes you don't even need the perfectly crafted document or the elaborate callback verification. Sometimes simple chaos works just as well.
You mean like the distraction techniques mentioned?
Yeah, the sources mention classics like the 52-card pickup, or maybe just tripping clumsily at the security desk.
The old trip and scatter papers everywhere trick. Does that actually work?
Apparently, yes, quite effectively sometimes. It exploits the guard's cognitive load. By suddenly tripping, scattering papers, maybe acting embarrassed or flustered.
We'll overwhelm them for a moment.
Exactly. Their immediate focus shifts from methodical security procedure to managing the unexpected chaos, maybe helping you pick things up, dealing with the awkwardness. Their cognitive processing gets overloaded.
And they just want the situation resolved quickly.
Right. So they might default to expediting your access just to get the clumsy auditor or whoever you're pretending to be out of their lobby and restore normalcy. They see the logo on the scattered papers, assume it's fine, and wave you through. Human nature under pressure.
Okay, so stepping back, what does this all really mean for our learner? We've journeyed through two completely different worlds here.
We really have.
On one hand, the super technical domain of data analysis, XOR, clustering, causal modeling, all needed just to reverse engineer complex, undocumented machines where precision is everything.
Deeply technical, very precise.
And on the other hand, the very human-centric world of OSINT, applied social psychology and exploiting those basic trust assumptions for things like physical penetration.
Yeah, often low-tech, relying on understanding people.
So how do we connect these two seemingly opposite approaches? What's the bigger picture?
Well, I think true expertise in adversarial security, or even just understanding security threats, means recognizing this duality. Systems, organizations, they tend to be protected either by, let's say, robust technical obscurity.
Which requires immense, precise effort to decode, like the car example.
Exactly. Or they're protected by often fragile human assumptions and trust models, like the security guard.
Right.
And the most effective adversarial approach, whether it's a researcher or a malicious actor, is often about finding the path of least resistance, the lowest point of friction.
So that could be a super specific proprietary bit flip sequence buried deep in a CAN bus message.
Or it could be a busy security guard relying on a simple piece of paper that just looks authentic for those critical 3 seconds. Both can be the weakest link.
It really depends on the target.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a final, maybe provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we accept that 90% accuracy is basically a failure when you're trying to hack a car's critical systems.
Because being off by 1 bit is catastrophic.
Right. But a simple, quickly forged document combined with exploiting one of those 5 basic psychological principles might be nearly 100% successful in getting someone unauthorized access into a sensitive area, like a data center.
Okay.
And the question is, what percentage of your organization's defense budget, your security thinking, your training time is currently dedicated to understanding and maybe hardening that 3-second human trust evaluation?